Whenever you're ready.
Yeah. I guess we should start. So, hi and welcome to my session. If you need to have the slides, you want to have the slides, this would be a good opportunity to scan the QR code because there will be at least some version of this set will be available online later, just to if you want to check the references or something. But yeah, I am Mikko. I have a background in software development, but I have been working in sales for, I don't remember, like many years. I do have a technical approach to sales, so I try to at least know when I'm lying and so on. So this is kind of like an interesting mix of technical stuff and sales related stuff. This is really like the presentation will be highly opinionated, meaning that you wouldn't it would be something that you would show to your customers or internally if you want to motivate someone to do that. I won't be addressing too many issues related to this, but you'll see. Like I said, it's opinionated. So native mobile applications basically suck. The thing is that if you reduce most of the basic customer-facing applications we nowadays have, they are basically forms. You have Uber, you have two autofillable forms. Tinder, I haven't used that, but based on what I've seen, it's just like next or previous type of thingy or yes or no type. So it's really simple. But the thing is that compared to what they actually achieve, they're really oversized and overpowered. You have they take a lot of resources from the phone. They take a lot of space. They are really greedy with the permissions, and basically it's kind of burdensome to install them from the app stores. If you have ever visited anywhere in the internet, you know this Tapatalk forum. So every time you want to check something from that forum, there's this banner like, oh, would you like to install the application? I don't know anyone, I can't imagine anyone who would actually press that button because you want just to check that particular forum post, not install an application from the app store. So it's really kind of diverting people from their actual goals. In addition to these things, they're kind of expensive to maintain. If you want to create a native application, you need to have one for Android, one for iOS or iPhones, and then luckily we don't have Windows phones anymore, but that was the third platform you needed to support. And also this applies to the updates as well. So whenever you want to do an application update, you need to tell the development team to create a new version of the application. You submit it to the App Store queue, and then after hopefully some time, the application actually reaches the users. And to add to that, the content is not indexable by the search engine. So whatever you have in that native application, it can't be found in Google. So to simplify, it requires commitment from the developers and the owners, and in many cases, like I said, simplified forms. Many things could be done better using the web interface. But there are benefits in having a native mobile application. I mean, once you have it, it's really quick to open and start using it. I wouldn't be spending nearly as much time with Facebook if I had to just browse to a website and start using it there. But it's kind of easy just to open the application and start scrolling. Then we have a lot better conversion rates if you compare it to the websites, like 157, 50% retention rates. These are numbers from this URL. I hope you can't see it, but this is why you could download the presentation. You could offload some of the processing to the user's device with the native mobile application. They work offline, and then you have the push notification, which is the kind of biggest thingy from the marketing perspective. Simply put, they're best used in services that you use constantly, continuously. But then we have these progressive web applications. they stand somewhere in the middle between the websites and the native mobile applications. This concept is not new. So basically, when Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone in 2007, he already was talking about a way for distributing applications outside the app, like the app stores. And in 2014, 2015, a couple of guys from Google actually nailed the term progressive web applications. And there, the victory started going. But then something happened. Someone realized that there's a lot of money to be made using the app stores. And suddenly they weren't a priority to anyone. The technology exists. It's getting adopted more and more. But it's still like there was delays and so on, that especially Apple treats them as a second-class citizens. But what this like PWA actually is, it's a web application that you can install. It's essentially, it's basically a web application. You can use it with desktop devices. You can install it on your like MacBook. You can install it on your on desk like mobile phone. And you can, it's just like exactly using the website. You enter an address, you go there, it looks like a web page, but there's an install button available, and then suddenly you can have it installed on your device. It has more capabilities over the simple website. You can have, in addition to installing it, you can use push notifications, you can cache stuff, you can make them run offline, and so on. There's a bunch of features. Nowadays, you probably already know that you can do like interesting shit with JavaScript nowadays. Like a lot of APIs are available. The devices, the platforms for these core features, they have a varying support between the platforms. I mean, iOS used to, for a really long time, iOS didn't support push notifications, but Android did. iOS, actually, Apple enabled that last year. And so on. So there's differences between platforms. So on some platform you can cache this much data, and some other platform you can cache even more, and so on. But in any case, in the best cases, the user experience of a PWA is really comparable to a native application. You just click an icon, the app opens, and you have no idea whether it's a native application or a PWA. But we need to be aware that this is kind of not aligned with what the phone manufacturers want to happen. So, for example, when I was presenting this in Switzerland in March, Apple had just actually, like a couple of weeks prior, they had announced that they will stop supporting PWAs in the European Union because of the Digital Market Act. Unfortunately, unfortunately, that was just prior to the presentation and so on, and they canceled the decision just a couple of weeks, I think after hearing the feedback. But we just need to keep in mind how valuable open source and open platforms are, and with us working with this Google and Apple, they all have their own incentives to just make these things not work. But anyways, this probably got big enough so that they actually had to start supporting it again. So it was a temporary glitch. But anyways, the PWA, the key takeaways. So basically, this is fine print. I downloaded most of this from this URL, but you can see what can be achieved. So basically, currently there are many million websites, but there are only, I think, 54,000 websites that actually are PWAs, but it's growing a lot. The market's going to grow significantly. It's like 10.44 billion by 2027. And what you can achieve with this is that you can get page speed improvement because of the caching, up to 10 times faster. You can have mobile conversion rates increased by 52%. These are all positive numbers compared to what you would get on a traditional websites. So there's absolutely no reason for not doing this. In practice, these are a bit old numbers, but they're still valid. So basically, Twitter reduced the data consumption by 70%. This is like the magical thing because because of all the caching you have. Basically, like many elements of a website are basically static, and of course we. In the Western world, we are used to having like the €1,000 mobile phones and functioning 5G networks and whatnot, but it's not that all over the world. In some countries, in some areas, you actually like pay by the megabyte, and your like data connection are really sucky and whatever. So especially in these areas, they would benefit a lot from PWAs. If you don't want to, if you have a cheap phone, you don't want to spend 100 megabytes or 200 megabytes for installing Facebook, because you can do that with just a couple of megabytes of PWA cached on your phone. So we should take these into account. And you can see lots of like performance improves, engagement rates, revenue by 300%. That's a lot, and so on. So there's a lot that you can achieve with this. And and you don't need to do a major investment to start with doing this. It's kind of like really simple. You have the good old website, and then you have two files. You have a JSON file, manifest file that explains to the browser that this is what this is. It's manifest.json. It contains information about the application, like what should read under the icon, what would be the icon file, or how it would look, some background coloring options, and so on. And then you have a JS file, which is for the service worker. I'll get to that like on the next slide. And since this is progressive, it means that if the browser cannot understand any of it, it will just ignore it. So if you compare this to the earlier technologies that we have been using, single page applications and blah, 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 you had to jump through hoops to get that working on older browsers. You would have like combined server-side rendering with like client-side rendering and blah, blah, blah. It would be really complicated really quickly. But with this one, it functions just like a normal website, unless the browser understands how to take advantage of it. That's the magic of the progressive. Anyways, so the service worker is like, in addition to the manifest that explains like what this is, the service worker is the one that does things like the most of the heavy lifting. You can think of it as a cache or kind of like basically like a element in the middle. Normally you would have have the client side, the browser, and then you would have the backend side. And suddenly now we have this service worker that exists between those things. Whenever you make a request from the PWA application, the service worker gets called, and they can decide on how to react to that. They can check if the application is online, whether there's cached elements, and they can serve them back to the PWA application. So, and it runs in its own thread, means that it's separate from the browser window. It can do like stuff in the background. So for example, they can handle push notifications. You have a push notification coming, the service worker is alive, but the application window has been closed. So the service worker gets the notification and then pushes it to the screen. So yeah, so pretty simple to set up. Of course, it doesn't mean that like PWAs are necessarily simple. You can just take a website, stuff these two files in it, like take a WordPress blog or whatever static HTML file, just put these files there, and suddenly you have a PWA application. It looks and behaves like a PWA application. But you can't do any like really, it doesn't look like an application, it looks like a web page. So in order to benefit from this, you actually need to like create your application like an application. But it like, yeah. Do we have demo time? I have time for the demo. Yes, so I have a couple of examples here, but I think that I'll just demo how the installation process goes. So you just enter a website address. It opens up the website, and it looks like a website because it is a website. There you can see that there's an how to say it, like create a shortcut button, and after you press it, it asks if you want to install the application. This is my dog, you can, like while it's installing the application, so it actually takes some time. You can see that it's like doing the installation there, and when it's done, you should and you will have the Starbucks icon. So when you press it, it actually starts running in an application. As you can see, it's a full application with the icon and whatnot, and this is how it works from then on. The BMW shows this like prompt for installing the application on your phone. That's the second way of doing that. If you don't want to do that, there's two options. In this is being configured differently. So there's this option of installing it on your phone, or just creating a shortcut on your phone. So like two options: just creating a bookmark or having the application installed. And then after a while, suddenly you have the BMW application on your phone again. So this is quite a different process from installing stuff from the App Store. No need to switch context. If the user doesn't want to install the application, they still have the full user experience. Regarding this Starbucks application, this is how many percent smaller it is than when you compare it to the iOS application. Use an application to buy a cup of coffee. So it's a perfect use case for a PWA application, and you see that it doubled the number of the online orders and so on. So it's like basically it's just magic. Well, anyways, so because of the progressivity, you can do it quite quickly. You get access to some of the main features. So you get your simple website to have an icon, you can install it. You won't get the caching, but you get everything that I showed you in this video. But if you just do it like this, it's a really fancy bookmark. I mean, yeah, if you have let's say you're going to a conference, you have a stand there, you want to have your website on there, like on an iPad, and people can use it. Yeah, why not to do it like this? You don't need any fancier features. It runs full screen and it has an icon. But to create an actual application, you should design the applications like you would design a real native application. You should have a similar process to figure out what features you want, what the users are going to use, and then just create it like an application, not like a website. So, what can you do with it? This is the major. You can do sales. You can just force the customers to remake their websites because this is better. It's newer. It's like, yeah, everyone else are having this, so why not do that? But seriously, essentially it's a mobile application working on the same code base with your web application. It's the same thing. So it means that you have a lot less development expenses. You can use the same team. You can do the updates and releases whenever the customer wants without any delay. It functions like in the same way. If the customer they want to have a feature change in an important application, you just make the team develops it, they push it, and then it gets released immediately. In the same way, if you have an internal application, let's say your customer has a warehouse and the worker needs to scan barcodes and do some inventory management, and it's an application that you wouldn't want to distribute in the apps through the app stores. There are ways of distributing applications through an app store for a limited audience, but I don't know why. I mean, this is probably a lot simpler. So you can make the application run in the company intranet. And it's a mobile application that's natively run in the intranet. And of course, you can convert, like create quick prototypes with it, change the idea to a service, and then if you really want, you can even publish these to the App Store. I think Google Play Store has a way of setting pushing the applications to the App Store. You can you can wrap it, probably push it to the iOS Store as well, and so on. But then we go to the capabilities. So yeah, this is the basic set of capabilities. These are available on all the platforms. Interesting things, yeah, you have caching. I already promised you that you can do this. You can execute things in threads. You have 2D and 3D canvases. Well, yeah, it's basically the same stuff that you have already have at your disposal as a front-end developer. Yeah, so this is the basic stuff. Then when we start adding more stuff to the API, so yeah. We can utilize gamepads, we can do biometric authentication, fingerprints, face recognition, speech synthesis and voice recognition, accessing the clipboard, picture-in-picture video, render content in full screen, and credential and password management. You can do stuff like, for example, if you have a two-factor authentication, you can have an SMS sent to with the number code sent to the user, and the application grabs it automatically from the SMS and then fills it in the application and so on. So yeah, this is like. Then we have a bunch of features that are necessarily not available in the same way on both the platforms, but these get fancier and fancier. I mean, you have I don't know, the NFC would be quite a good example. Bluetooth Low Energy, you can do like a ton of stuff with that. You can read serial ports, you can access USB, you can do like, this is a pizza list for a developer, and you can do, I mean, even I wouldn't know what to do with all of this if I had to combine them in a single application. There's like a lot of features that's available. So yeah, it means that but you need to be aware. So basically, before you go to promising stuff to your customer, you need to keep in mind that you have two platforms you need to support. The APIs are changing from platform to platform. So obviously, like, even if 99% of the application would be same from platform to platform, there might be this like single crucial feature that's not available on iOS or on Android. Android generally supports better, like these APIs better. For a long time, that was the push notification. You go to a customer like, hello, I have this perfect solution for you. You can have like a native application, but with web development like theme and so on. And the next question would be like, does it support push notifications? And you were like, yeah, on Android it does. But it's not significant on iOS. You can use SMSs or whatnot. So it's like, typically that was the end of the conversation. But nowadays, now that the push notifications should be supported, the rest of it is just like basic stuff. But yeah, to put it short, it's a good thing to take into consideration when depending on what kind of application you're creating for your customers. If it's just a website, I mean, what's the point? The BMW site, for example, I have no understanding why they did that. Maybe it's because they could, or maybe their vendor is really good in selling stuff. But typically, if it doesn't look like an application, why would you want to have it as a PWA anyways? Because it's just confusing. But for example, applications like Starbucks, if you have a booking site, if you use, for example, create sites for educational purposes, like, I don't know, like basically anything that sells stuff or the customer uses, like these functional sites, in my opinion, there's no reason for it not to have the PWA functionality. The customer is going to save a lot of money. They're going to have to anyway create the website or the web service for that, and eventually they will have the iOS and Android native applications. It might as well be you who develops them instead of some random other company. And yeah, so that's I'm quite a fan of this technology. And since you keep there all the pitfalls in mind before you start selling this to the customer, you understand what the concept is and so on. If it can be done in web, it can be done as a PWA. And then with enough like good caching strategy, you can achieve magical stuff with it. So anyways, do you have any questions? Yes.
Thank you for the presentation. I wanted to ask, since you mentioned that there was a time where there were no push notifications for Apple devices, what's the incentive for the OS developers to keep up to date the progressive web apps the same as the ones for the native store, since they make more money from the native store downloads and they take a huge percentage from any in-app purchases and so on. So why would they make sure that the PWA technology is on the same level as the native one?
Yeah, so the question is that why Apple would like keep the PWA app technology in par with the native applications, because they don't make any money out of it. So that's essentially the problem, because it's like I think that they had absolutely no reason to technical reason not to have the push notifications in PWAs. So yeah, and with the DMA thingies and so on, it's kind of like clear to me that they just are after the money, but they had to cave in at some point. They had to start using a push notification. I have no idea why, but they basically can't play dumbasses for forever. So yeah, probably there was too much pressure. The technology started becoming more popular, and then they just came in and it's like, yeah, just have your push notifications.
Thanks. I actually have another question. You mentioned that it's good practice to actually start developing the app as a progressive web app from the start, but what are some of the pitfalls or difficulties that you've encountered rewriting already existing websites into PWAs?
Depending on what you have, I mean, again, this is really opinionated, but I think that so if you have just like a regular website and you slap there the manifest and the JSON, I mean, yeah, it works. You can do that. You have a nice bookmark and so on, but it doesn't have the real benefits of the PWA. So I think that my idea is that you should if you have a single page application, it's architecturally really different from the PWA application. It doesn't have the progressive approach and so on. So I think that while you could do that, it's kind of maybe looking a bit like it would be a whole lot easier to do that, just checking doing that from the start. Yeah.
So if you have plans to do a progressive web app, but you only have the budget for the web page at the beginning, would you start with having the manifest inside and then and get the people to bookmark it and let it be a fancy bookmarked web page, and then slowly just integrate the PWA afterwards?
Yeah, if it has functionality. So yeah, if you have, for example, if it's a reservation system, you need to book a time for your barber or medical care or whatever. In that case, yeah, the more you have you can just mark the place in the user's device and make your spot there, and then when you start adding functionality, then it gets better over time. So yeah, I would definitely take that into account.
Can they coexist? Can you have have some of the parts being, sorry. Can you have some of the parts being a PWA and some of the parts not? Or is it just you have to do the whole thing as a PWA in order to have it?
Well, basically it's essentially it's the same thing. I mean, if you have parts of the web application, you can limit the scope with the manifest. So, for example, domain.com/ and then app/ blah blah blah. You can limit the scope to that with a manifest. And then if you just have let's say you have a corporate website, most of the stuff probably wouldn't function really well as PWA. But then you would have /shop, and then you would be able to put the PWA there.
Thank you.
And one more question.
I wanted to ask you about, for instance, the lower bar for the implementation of the PWA. Something like, let's have it install on a device, and for instance, be able to work offline to prefetch some pages and something like that. So my question is, for this thing, which is similar to his question, is what would be the lower effort? My question is actually when we are presenting the case to the client and we want to say, okay, let's include this as a low-hanging fruit for just opening an option, you will gain some things like prefetching, caching, being available while offline, and so on. So, what is your estimation about amount of the that very, very basic work to be included in and be operational?
Well,
with Drupal site, for instance.
I'll use a WordPress site as an example. I used to have I've been doing this presentation for a year, and a year ago I had my WordPress blog site as an example. So what I did was that I installed a module. It was like PWA module for WordPress, and I press install. What it did is that it asked me to say that what's the background color for my site. I was like this one, blip, 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 typed it in, and then it worked. I mean, because it's just the manifest file basically. It just puts these two files in place. So maybe, I mean, I am not a developer and I really shouldn't give any estimates. I would say that to get this basic functionality, it's like 1 day of work maximum, including reading the documents. Then, of course, you need to have the caching strategy. You need to gather what files you actually want to cache. So that might take a bit more work, but you'll end typing those in. But basically, it's as simple as I could do that in with that module for WordPress that just did these two files for me. I did it in less than 30 seconds, and it worked. So taking an FTP access to or SSH to my server would have taken me a bit longer, but it's just it isn't any more complex like that. So it's kind of easy to get on the wagon, but to make it go faster takes a bit longer, but you still can start having benefits. But the blog application was it's a good example that's about confusing the users. So when you go to it's a hunting blog basically, me and my dogs and whatnot. But the thing is that when you go there, the users will see that would you like to install this application? And start why? Why would I want to? It's the exact same question that you have on your mind when you go to these Tapatalk forums. Why would I want to install this forum on my phone? There's no reason. I just want to copy some code there or whatever. So that's kind of a good example or if you go to some corporate site, there's no functionality there. They ask you with a banner, would you like to install this? You say hell no. And then you and so on. But so it might be a bit confusing, but yeah, I'm not sure. I think that there are ways of caching files even without the user installing the application. So you can probably make that work as well. But the icon is actually the most valuable thing, because that's what allows users to come to you. If you're getting a haircut once every month, and you always go to different places, but this one place offers you just please add this as bookmark on your phone instead of going through installing an application. Obviously you would take that chance. You just install the application whenever you feel that your hair is getting a bit longer or grayer, in my case. You would just it's really easy. With one click you can just book. You can have your essential info cached on the device and so on. So you can have lot of benefits compared to just going as an anonymous user to a website and start typing your email address and so on. Cool.
Thank you for the informative session. It was amazing.
Thank you.